Today we have the fourth and final installment in a series of City Club programs dealing with one of the club's premier issues, economic development. The series has been coordinated by our Standing Committee on Business and Labor, and it is entitled Made in USA, Jobs in Oregon. The series deals generally with the broad topic of quality, productivity, and international markets, and more particularly with how Oregon businesses are meeting the challenge of increased global competitiveness. You will recall that the first speaker in the series was Wim Velsink of Tektronix, who discussed the general subject of competitiveness from international, national, and local perspectives. The second speaker was Tom Brugere of Mentor Graphics, who told us how a small local company can make good in the big time. The third speaker was Dave Bolander, president of Pacific Power and Light Company, who discussed, among other things, the utilization of new management methods and techniques in order to remain competitive in today's environment. Today's speaker is Jack Warne, who recently retired as president and chief operating officer of Omark Industries. Mr. Warne will discuss, among other things, how Omark has succeeded in increasing its international sales while lowering operating costs through plant efficiencies. We have all heard much about the so-called Japanese methods of management, and Mr. Warne will comment on the adaptation of such methods to U.S. manufacturing. I should say that Mr. Warne is probably one of the few people here who understood John Gould's Japanese introduction to his report. Mr. Warne is a native of Australia, where at an early age he founded a sporting arms company. In 1966, he sold that company to Omark and joined the Omark management team. Omark, as we all know, is the world's leading manufacturer of saw chain, and it also produces other timber harvesting and log handling equipment, power fasteners, and sports products. Mr. Warne served in various managerial and executive positions, becoming president in 1983, and when Omark was purchased by Blount Inc. in 1985, Mr. Warne retired. He's now serving as a consultant to various industries on management techniques. Mr. Warne has been active in community affairs and is currently chairman of the board of Meridian Park Hospital and vice chairman of the board of HealthLink. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jack Warne.
Thank you, Randall. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. There's an old proverb that says, necessity is the mother of invention. And I think that old proverb is very true in the United States today. We are all aware that over the past 5 or 6 years, foreign competition in this country has become so keen that it's beginning to threaten some of our good and old, well-established industries. And I think that we can say truthfully, too, that during this period the competition has been very much accentuated by the very high value of the US dollar. However, foreign competition is no longer confined just to price, so I think we have to be careful about blaming all of our competitive pressures on the high dollar. Competition today, as I see it, has 3 dimensions. First, the product's aesthetic and functional attractiveness to the customer. Then its quality. And finally, its price. Competition, particularly from the Japanese manufacturers, has become so keen that many U.S. businesses, of necessity, must find a way to respond effectively or go out of business. I believe that finally, after a very slow start, we're now beginning to see a very innovative and a very effective response to this competition developing. the need to become competitive is now bearing some innovative solutions. And I'd like to tell you about this competitive response as I see it and how it's affecting quality and corporate strategy in the United States. But I'd like to take just a couple of minutes, first of all, to recap the history that brought us to this present situation. As an old friend of mine, Dr. Joseph Duran, the famous quality expert, explains it, back in the 1950s, most manufacturing companies in the United States were strong and competitive, and their products were of high quality. And contrary to what many people believe, since then, the quality of the products made in the United States have improved year by year, but at an evolutionary pace. In contrast, if we look at the Japanese back in the 50s, their quality wasn't quite so good, and their productivity was fairly low. Consequently, the products were relatively uncompetitive in those days. And I think that the Japanese realized that to compete in the world's markets, they must improve quality to a level at least equal to the Western world. So, driven by this very strong need to become competitive, Japan embarked upon an all-out revolution in product quality. And I believe it's a program of product quality, of product improvement on an unprecedented scale. Nobody has ever attempted quality improvement program of this magnitude before. And I think we're all very, very much aware how successful this campaign has been, especially those of us who have had to compete with them. By the mid-70s, their rapid rate of improvement raised the quality of Japanese products to about level with the United States and the rest of the Western world. And to accomplish this, of course, in such a very short period of time, their slope of improvement was very steep indeed. And this slope of improvement continues today and has and appears to that it will continue at this very steep slope. So since about 1975, when the Japanese caught up with the West for product quality, they have been improving on a very steep slope while we've improved on a gradual slope, and consequently, now that they have moved past us, we see the quality gap widening. And I think we could say without much doubt that that in addition to their lead in quality, the Japanese manufacturing productivity too has followed a similar pattern. And I think if we were to draw a graph for quality improvement with the lines passing each other in 1975, we could pretty well say the same for productivity also. I'm talking about manufacturing productivity now. And I think that we must give the Japanese managers a great deal of credit for having done a superb job of managing this revolution and achieving these very phenomenal results that we're all very much familiar with. There are three aspects of their revolution which I believe have provided them with much of their competitive edge, and I'd like just to mention those for a moment or two. First, their managers have developed a culture within their companies that has very effectively tapped the intelligence, the ingenuity, the creativity, the resourcefulness, the energy and the enthusiasm of every person in the organization. This carefully developed company culture enlists and fully involves everyone from the newest employee in the company to the company president, with all of them equally committed to making their company successful. I think that management has very effectively tapped this tremendous resource, and workers have responded in a wonderful way to the environment very deliberately developed by management. The partnership that has developed between management and the workforce as a result of this has contributed enormously to the quality and productivity in their country. And I think we could say that management built this partnership with the workforce during a period where many companies in the US continued with their old adversarial relationships with their employees. I think we often fail to recognize the tremendous wealth of brain power and energy and enthusiasm available to us. Next, the Japanese managers have developed a system that inherently makes only products of very high quality, with the aim of totally satisfying the customer in every way. A system to control the quality of everything connected with the product that impacts the senses of the customer. They recognized long ago that 40% of the quality problems, as the customer sees them, stem from design shortcomings, design weaknesses and errors. And then another large portion of quality problems, as the customer sees them, stem from sales and service organizations that support the products in the customer's hands. So this control over every aspect of quality has been pursued, while we in the United States have continued to view quality control generally as solely a manufacturing responsibility and intended only to ensure that our products are made exactly to their specification. And the third element, they developed a revolutionary approach to manufacturing that greatly simplified the whole process. They systematically eliminated all of the unnecessaries in their factories by the use of some very innovative techniques. They eliminated work-in-process inventories, reduced lead times from weeks to hours, and doubled asset turnover. This was accomplished while greatly improving quality and productivity. And I think that all this was done during a period when we were overly enamored with our computers and went in the opposite direction. We greatly complicated our manufacturing and automated all kinds of waste activities. We set up elaborate, highly expensive systems to schedule, control, transport, count, automatically store and retrieve weeks and weeks of work-in-process inventory. I must say we did it very effectively. This all occurred during a period when the Japanese manufacturers eliminated work-in-process inventory altogether and greatly simplified all of the factory activities. So I believe that it is in these three areas where many U.S. companies have been outmanaged. And it is in these three areas where our rivals have taken a quantum jump ahead of us in some of our industries, not all of them. And I think that there isn't a manufacturer in the United States today that is not very much aware of this alarming situation. And I think that as a result of this competitive pressure, we've also made some other important discoveries. We've discovered that the customer, faced with a wide choice of products from all over the world, is now very much in control of the market here. The customer demands products that are aesthetically appealing, functionally efficient and pleasant to use, highly reliable, very durable, and have a reasonable price. In addition, they demand that the experience of buying the product is a pleasant one, and they insist that they must be backed by a prompt and efficient after-sales service. And I think this is what today's customer calls quality and value. And I think we've also discovered that our competition is no longer the plant in the next city. Our competition is truly international today. Our competition is the plant in Korea, Japan, Taiwan, France, Sweden, Germany. And perhaps more importantly, Our people have discovered that the competition for jobs is no longer the people across the town. It's the capable, energetic, competent people in these plants all over the world. And I think that both managers and workers in the United States have finally woken up that they're in the same boat and they must pull together to survive in this competitive world. On the positive side, we've rediscovered the tremendous technological strengths of the United States available to us. The tremendous technological strength and infrastructure that is continually stimulated, strengthened and expanded by the huge and affluent domestic market we serve here, by the big defense industry, by the very large space program, by Silicon Valley that dominates 70% of the world's computer industry, and by a very large aircraft industry. These industries generate new technology at an ever-increasing speed and provide a wealth of resources from which all of U.S. industry can draw. And we've also rediscovered that the American workers, as a result of the culture in which they're raised, I believe, are very free thinkers, extremely creative and natural innovators. They are flexible and very adaptable to new ideas and techniques. These are strengths the Japanese don't have in much measure. And our people are very energetic and highly productive when given the opportunity to properly express themselves and show what they can do. It is to these two tremendous strengths that American industry is turning today in its response to the new competitive challenges it faces today. It's ruled out the option of attempting to roll back wages and compete with its rivals on labor costs. And that obviously isn't a practical solution. Much of American industry has adopted many of the good features of the Japanese Revolution by now, particularly the very high emphasis on quality, the simplification of the whole manufacturing process, and the elimination of unnecessary inventory. America is now turning to its enormous technological strengths and its considerable people strengths to restore its competitive edge. As I see it, America's new strategy is not just to match its competition, but to leapfrog way past them, not only in quality, but in product design excellence, manufacturing efficiency, and cost. As I see it, American industry's new strategy is to invest very heavily in the new technologies available to it and apply it to the development of new products aimed at appealing to the customer's senses in a way they have never attempted before. And another element of America's new strategy is to invest heavily in the new technologies that are available to it and apply it to the manufacturing facilities aimed at dramatically improving quality and reducing cost. It is using the substantial technological lead we have in electronics and computers to build totally computer-integrated manufacturing plants with almost unbelievable levels of automation and computer control. And the most important element of American industry's new strategy, as I see it, is to effectively tap all of the strengths of its human resources in a manner never before experienced in the history of U.S. manufacturing, and to effectively direct these strengths towards better quality, better products, and lower costs. We're doing this at a time when the labor force in the U.S., as I see it, has seen the light and understands the need to work together with management. And there's many instances, many examples of where this revolution is now well underway and we're beginning to see some of its success emerging. And I'm pleased to say that the revolution has been given a very nice boost recently by the substantial drop in the value of the US dollar. I'd like to cite an actual case to illustrate how this revolution is taking hold and how effective it is. I believe we're all aware of the conditions that existed in the US auto industry in 79, 80, and 81. At that time, their products were unattractive to the customer. They did not in any way suit the customer's needs, and quality was way below foreign standards. All US car manufacturers were losing money heavily during that period. In fact, the auto industry as a whole lost $7 billion during 79, 80, and 81. Labor relations were adversarial and confrontational, and both management and labor were to blame for this. The industry was uncompetitive with its foreign rivals, and at that time it desperately needed some import protection. Now, I think that Ford Motor Company is perhaps one of the best examples of the revolution that is taking place today. What has happened there in quality, customer acceptability of the product, manufacturing efficiency, and management workforce cooperation is nothing short of miraculous. And I think this is only a sample of what is happening in numerous companies throughout the United States. Ford's new mid-sized car, the new Taurus, is the first of this new generation of super products designed with the customer's needs and the customer's feelings in mind in every respect. It's been built new from the ground up, and it's been designed to be made on the very latest manufacturing equipment and technology available. Ford spent $3 billion on the design and development of this new product and in furnishing the manufacturing facilities for making it, and it's used the very latest technology available in both the product itself and the manufacturing facilities to build it. But I think perhaps more remarkable is what has been accomplished in the relationship between management and the workforce, and what has been accomplished by the wholehearted participation and involvement of everyone in the company in the quest for high quality and low cost. Ford calls this group of fully involved employees, which is made up of managers, engineers, production line workers, and office workers. Ford calls them Team Taurus. And I guess one of the best examples is Ford's transmission plant at Livonia, Michigan, where the Taurus transmissions are built. Production workers have only two job classifications in that plant: manufacturing technicians and operators. When an operator receives the required training to do all of the jobs in his department, he automatically is upgraded to the production technician status, manufacturing technician status. And manufacturing technicians are completely flexible and move from job to job wherever their help is required. The worker's objective in that plant is to have everyone in one job classification. What a tremendous contrast to the 190 rigidly enforced job classifications in Ford plants in the past. And what a contrast to the old adversarial relationship of the past. And who would ever have thought of Ford Detroit as a people-oriented company? The communication and cooperation between the employees in Team Taurus resulted in so many ideas for savings and improvements that the cost of the Taurus project finished $400 million below budget. And this is an indication of what happens when managers and workers are partners in the pursuit of a common goal. Technology of the kind used at Ford is dramatically slashing costs in both direct and indirect manufacturing operations. It is improving quality in a revolutionary manner by eliminating the opportunity for human error. Computer numerical control used on the scale and the sophistication of this plant enables automatic inspection devices to be built into the tooling at almost every process. The level of applied technology operated by people who are fully involved and committed to producing good quality is resulting in products at Ford that can hold their own with products anywhere in the world, I think, at any price. Now, how is the U.S. market responding to this new Ford product? And here is what the leading motor magazines say about it recently. And I'll quote from the magazines. "What Ford has accomplished here will make many rivals wish for another trip to the drawing board," from Road and Track. "The Taurus proves that in America, Ford alone understands the automobile as a whole, car and driver." The 1986 Car of the Year winner is Ford's fabulous Taurus, Motor Trend. Ford's terrific Taurus, car and driver. Ford Taurus, Mr. and Mrs. America aren't going to believe this, car and driver. And finally, Sweetheart, excellent handling dynamics for this market segment, almost viceless for Joe Customer, Motor Trend. The response to this new product is nothing short of amazing, and I believe it is proof that the new strategy is working. Returning to the human resource front, IBM is another company where the management and the workforce are partners in the pursuit of the company's success. IBM employs about 500,000 people, and not one of them feels the need to be represented by a union. This is a company that has always effectively tapped the creativity and energy of every person in the organization, and I'm sure this is the prime reason for its phenomenal success. Hewlett-Packard, another company that has a plant in Oregon, is another prime example of a company where management and the workforce work together as partners. Hewlett-Packard's 84,000 people are not represented by a union because they do not feel the need for one. Every person in the organization works in an environment where they're allowed to contribute and be fully involved in the pursuit of the company's goals. The trend of management-workforce cooperation in the United States goes way beyond the manufacturing industries. Perhaps the best example of this new spirit is the Delta Airlines. Delta's employees, committed to making their companies succeed, collected $40 million from their payroll. Their employees, with their own money, purchased a new Boeing 767 and presented it to the company to express their commitment to the company. The plane is very aptly named the Spirit of Delta. This new spirit of cooperation between management and the workers, this new commitment to quality and productivity, this new drive that we see to restore America's competitive edge, I believe is creating an exciting new manufacturing revolution in this country. And I believe that during the next couple of years, we will see some amazing results. So please don't count the United States out of the quality and productivity race yet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warne. The privilege of asking the first question of our speaker goes to Dick Tracy of the Standing Committee on Business and Labor. Dick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Warne. Over the last several months, our series entitled Made in USA, Jobs in Oregon has explored the issue of competitiveness. We have heard about Oregon's problems and shortcomings in meeting the competitive challenge. But we've also heard about our strengths, innovations, and success stories. In your view, Mr. Warne, what are we doing well here in Oregon, and how can we do more of it?
I think the big opportunity for improving competitiveness in Oregon lies very much in the hands of management. Management needs to develop, I believe, in their companies this culture conducive to cooperation and team spirit, and a culture within the company that really enables or permits every person in the organization to express themselves. We're still a little bit behind the times here, and I think that we haven't quite realized that it is possible for management to change in a way that will build a partnership where everybody can really contribute to the success of the company. If you can do that, I think we can beat anybody in the world.
Now the floor is open for additional questions from members of the club. Please identify yourself when you speak and use the microphone so that the radio audience can hear the questions.
Is this mic open?
That sounds like you're coming across, Jim.
Member, are the unions, labor unions in the United States, aware of this cooperative spirit, and are they attempting to come on board?
I think that today's labor union member and labor union leader generally is a very intelligent, sensible person that understands that the competition is the factory in Korea and Japan and Taiwan, etc. And I think that generally speaking we see a very, very reasonable response. Of course there's always the radical and so forth. I might not make many friends here when I say that I really believe the problem between labor and management is more management's fault than it is the workers' fault. We very often blame the unions for our troubles, but having studied the way the Japanese operate, I have spent many months in this last 4 years in Japan. I've been there on many study missions. I've visited and spent one day in each of 42 different Japanese factories. And it's an eye-opener to see how management behaves there compared with how management behaves here. I think the opportunity is still in the hands of management, and I've seen situations where with the right kind of environment, even militant unions can be made your friends. So I'm afraid that I'm a little critical of what management does in this country. The enlightened managers are doing a fantastic job, but there's still quite a few unenlightened managers left here, unfortunately.
Next question. Why don't you just stay here?
I'm Barbara Clark, Business and Labor Committee, but I'm here today as a disillusioned consumer of American products. And I'd like to ask you, as a manager, whether you have had any trouble finding marketing people and management people who have an adequate technical education to understand your engineering people.
I have had most of my experience in the United States working at Omark. And I have managed factories in Britain, Belgium, Brazil, Mexico, Australia, and I have had all kinds of international experience with managing marketing people in maybe 30 different countries. And I would back the team we had at Omark, technically and in every other way, against any people that I've seen anywhere in the world. I think that American workers, by far, are the best workers in the world. And I'm going to stick up for them very strongly. We had no trouble getting the people we needed at Omark. We paid them enough.
Next question.
You talked about the lack of work-in-progress inventories in Japan. Having been a manufacturer, I'd really like to know how they did the work with no work in progress.
Toyota developed a completely revolutionary approach to manufacturing that practically eliminates the need for work in process. Now, it's a highly technical subject, and I don't think we have time to discuss it here, but I think that I could recommend a book to you that if you read it, you'd understand it. It's a book called The Toyota Production System by Shigeo Shingo. You should call Omark if you want to find out where to obtain it. If you read that book, I think you'll understand how you can operate a factory without any work in process inventory.
Go ahead.
Len Bergstein, City Club. Could you describe the current work being done on the United States tax laws and how they will affect you competitively, the manufacturing industry and particularly Omark? Do you think it's going to be a benefit or a hindrance to your U.S. competitiveness?
Well, you're into a subject that I know nothing about. I have read, of course, the effects the new tax bill will have on us, but really I'm unable to comment with that one.
Go ahead,
Ray
Ray.
Polanyi, member of the City Club. Mr. Warne, having been exposed to a lot of foreign countries, as you mentioned, how do you feel about the transportation system of the United States versus the rest of the world? I mean trains that move freight. I mean airplanes. I mean ships. We practically don't have a merchant navy anymore. And our railroads are required to compete with subsidized highway and airplanes.
We certainly have a problem there, and I think that it was brought about mainly by militant union activity. I think it's due for overhaul, the shipping thing anyway. I know that I'm a board member of a cement company in Honolulu, and we're competing with cement coming from Japan and Taiwan, finding it almost impossible to do so because we cannot ship American-made cement to Honolulu in foreign bottoms, and consequently they're giving us some very serious competition. So I agree, there needs some legislative action here to fix this one. I agree.
Don?
Don Sterling, a member. To what degree do you think there is an inherent contradiction between our desire for full employment on the one hand and the market's demand for a low price and the manufacturer's desire for high productivity on the other?
I think that's always going to be a problem in this kind of a society. They're a little opposed, aren't they? If you improve productivity 30%, you can do without 30% of the people. And that is a very serious problem. Of course, our problem here in this country is that our people are idle while we're importing the goods from Japan at the moment. And I think that the move that Mr. Baker made to reduce the value of the dollar was a very, very sensible thing to do. I think that we have to do the things at the legislative level that will help employment and protect us in some way. I'm not in favor, of course, of tariff protection, but the government doesn't do a tremendous amount for manufacturers in this country. When you look at all of the other countries, how the government usually helps manufacturers more. So I do believe there's a big opportunity for a change here, and of course employment is a thing that very seldom crosses people's mind. At Omark, we decided that stability of employment and job security was absolutely critical to developing the right environment within the company to get people to contribute their best. And we went to a lot of trouble, and we had a 6-month study on it and came out with a statement of job security, which really very dramatically improved the situation at Omark, where we did not lay off people. And I think that most enlightened companies today are considering the job security aspect very, very important. We talked about IBM. IBM have had a no layoff policy for 40 years. Hewlett-Packard's another one, no layoff policy. And I think you'll find that more and more companies are putting a tremendous amount of emphasis on job security and stopping this hiring and firing thing. We were able to improve our job security at Omark by about 75% merely by doing a list of very sensible things. It's too long to talk about now.
Next question.
Margaret Strawn, City Club member. I'd be interested in your recommendations for models that could be applied to service sectors in the community. You're talking about manufacturing, but how can you apply these models, or what are these models that would apply to service segments?
I talked about three elements of the revolution in Japan. The revolutionary manufacturing techniques, the development of a quality system that inherently builds good quality, and then this revolution in the management workforce cooperation. And I think that out of the three, by far the most important is the management workforce cooperation issue. And I think that this is totally in the hands of management. Management has the power and the authority to control the environment within the company. And the people respond to that environment that management creates. Now, I think this kind of environment or culture can be created in any kind of an organization, whether it's a hospital, or whether it's a bank, or whether it's an office or a retail store. The same people respond to the same things wherever they work. And since I have retired from Omark, I've been consulting in various large companies, and I have been very encouraged to see how enlightened managers are becoming and how dramatically they're changing their way of doing things.
Next question.
James Lehman, City Club member. In view of some of the things you've already alluded to, what do you think about the, for example, the President's cutback in education and the need for retraining and new kinds of skills, particularly due to automation, and was this kind of thing addressed by Omark in the changes in the no layoff policy?
I deplore the cutback in education. The thing that you notice when you spend time in Japan in their factories is the higher level of education. You find that production line workers doing statistical quality control at a level that we couldn't do here, simply because our high school education is nowhere near the standard of the Japanese. And it's also very revealing, too, to be in a German factory. I was over there last year, and to see the level of education of the average worker there. I think that this is a weak spot here, and I think it's very bad news to be cutting back on education.
We have time for about one more question. I see one coming.
Don Wagner. I am confused now because I thought you said that one of our potential, the potentials that we could use was employee creativity, and yet you say that we're not getting enough education. Did I miss something? What is the wellspring of our creativity?
I don't think there's a connection between creativity and education. However, I believe that that for people to be properly creative in an engineering sense, they need to have some technical training and background, creative in an engineering sense or in a manufacturing engineering sense. I think that people, regardless of what level they are in the organization, have all kinds of untapped skills and all kinds of untapped talents that can be released if they work in an environment where they're appreciated and where they're given an opportunity to express themselves. I know my old methods of management inhibited all kinds of of expression in the factories that I managed. But I do believe that if you see how the Japanese do it, they do allow everybody to express themselves, educated and uneducated, and you'd be surprised where the good ideas come from.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warne. This will use up the time available, and we will conclude the meeting. And we do appreciate the very enlightening and stimulating discussion you brought to us. I remind you that next Friday is the annual meeting, election of officers, and an address by Kim McCall. And then either the week after or the following week, we will resume the discussion on the vision for the Central City Report.